Hello and welcome to Oye Cinema Club. Today we're going to be discussing the wonderful early 2000s film, The 40-Year-Old Virgin. And it is my pick. I know last week we were supposed to review this week a movie called Little Women. But guess what? That's not happening on my watch. So we are going to be reviewing The 40-Year-Old Virgin. And before I go into why specifically I picked this film, let's introduce our wonderful panel of hosts. We have the incredible, the genius, the very highly intelligent El Dondino. And we have all the way from the East Coast of somewhere in the world, Marina. And of course, we got me, Steve Des TV. And like I said, we're going to be reviewing The 4-Year-Old Virgin. I picked this movie because it used to be a movie that I really enjoyed a lot. It has a wonderful cast, very strong characters, both female and male. And it also, I wanted to see if it still stood the test of time. And before I get into my first impressions, I want to know your first impression. And let's start with the beautiful and incredible Don Dino.
Yes. Hey guys, Don Dino in the house. This might actually only be the second time I've seen this movie all the way through. Out of all the Apatow movies of the Apatow verse, if you will, of the 2000s, this is probably the one I've seen the least or I like the least. Sorry, Steve, but I don't know. It just never. I love Steve Carell, but this was one of those movies that always just came off as like really cringe. Like just like someone that's so Meet the Fockers kind of felt that way, or Meet the Parents, where the characters it was this trope in the late '90s, early 2000s, where a character just kept getting put down and put down and put down every time. Like nothing could go well for him. And I felt like this one was always kind of like that as well, at least to me. So it just had an extra amount of cringe that I was never truly a fan of, which I'm sure there are some other movies that I probably love and adore, especially from the Apatow verse, that might be even cringier. But for some reason, this never quite you know, tickled my fancy, if you will. But it has some amazing scenes that have become part of our pop culture media, right? From the waxing to like a bunch of other ones, Kelly Clarkson, and speaking of like whether or not it would be made now, the you know how I know you're gay, you know how I know you're gay, which apparently all came out from them getting ready, setting up lights and all that, and they just were kind of riffing and improvising, and then they ended up just keeping that in also, or something like that. So I do appreciate the parts of how it's improvised. Also, though, I noticed it was a lot of cutting, a lot of like, it was a very dirty kind of just like chip chop cut of a movie of like clearly they were whether just having way too much fun, so they had to like cut and edit around them laughing or something like that. So it was fine. Watching it again, I was still kind of like very cringy. There were the some very funny lines still, but not my cup of tea. That's my second and a half impression, I guess.
Thank you so much, Dino. We're not going to be hearing from you again, but Marina, let's go with you with your first impression.
So this is my first time watching this. It came out while I still lived at home. So my mom was super strict, and I wasn't about to be able to watch something called 40-Year-Old Virgin in her house. And then I guess once I moved out, I guess once I moved out, I never thought to like watch it at all. So it was a nice fresh view on it. A lot of comedians that I like and a lot of actors I like that I didn't realize were in it. So it was kind of cool to see them. It was like a long SNL skit almost like of just people that now I've seen them in other things and seeing them so much younger. Um, but yeah, overall, my first impression was I laughed a lot. I'm really big on like super dry humor, so it was a lot of that for me. Um, I like the whole concept of like coworkers like trying to get their buddy to lose his virginity. It was yeah, complete opposite of Dino. Like I really enjoyed a lot of the comedy and the character development. And I just wanted this man to lose his virginity. Like I was just like, when is it gonna happen? There was so many times when I was just like, okay, I guess it has to be a movie, but like, come on now, you could have done it right then and there, but you didn't. So hurry up. But yeah, I liked it a lot. Just jumping right into it.
Thank you so much for that, Marina. Let's go with me. My first impressions was like, man, I know Dino's a hater. He's trying to be the JP of the group at this moment, but it's all good. It's all good. So good. I know he misses JP and he wants to like get that energy, but I still thought this movie for being 2023 and how much because one thing that's the thing also that like makes movies either last or not last is the advancement of technology, and you can tell how old the movie is by just how much in time we have advanced. But I still thought, in my opinion, that it still held up and it was very strong. I don't know if it's gonna hold up in 30 years from now, but I feel like for 2023, it's still an enjoyable watch. There were still moments where I laughed out loud, and there were things that, just like Marina said, it's like a movie that even if you have watched it in the past and you kind of have, you know, where the dynamics or certain things are gonna go, you still kind of go on the journey of like what's going to happen, like what's the point of the movie, or where is it going to take it, or like the playing of the stakes and everything. It was very entertaining, and it definitely had its moments. And for sure, you can tell that in this movie there was a lot of improv, which I enjoyed. And like Marina said, that this was like it felt like an SNL sketch. The character itself, like it would actually develop during improv sets. So this kind of story, Steve Carell developed it in like Second City stages and doing playing this character and like putting in different situations. That's why the movie itself it feels like a gigantic sketch from time to time. Like there's like mini skits throughout, and it's really funny. But that's what I really enjoy about this movie. That like certain films, especially comedies, like let's say like certain Will Ferrell comedies and things like that, follow like a formula, versus like this one felt more like people were allowed to play more with their own characters and say things that maybe in other movies they're very restricted by. So that's one of the reasons I really enjoy this film. And talking about characters, there's a lot of very colorful characters, and there's very moments, like a lot of moments that we can highlight. So I want to talk before we go into characters. What were your favorite moments? It could be a moment that you really enjoy, or it could be even a moment that you laughed out loud. Let's actually put those two, like a favorite moment you had in the movie, and a moment you actually like were caught off guard, laughed out loud, or weren't expecting.
This might be both, maybe, but I actually even wrote it down, and I don't think it's gonna be one that you thought you'd think I would think, but man, I laughed out loud for real. Because again, everything, very bodily humor, all that kind of thing, sex. But at the end, when he's riding his bike, chasing her, and then it's a callback once again for the whatever the poster on the bus was of the not explosion, but something like that. I think of what it was, and he hits the car and flies through that billboard truck, right, of the same. So it's like a callback, which is cool because a rule of three type of thing. And then when he's like on the ground and she comes over, he was like, there were two sides to that billboard and they both hurt. I lost it. I was like, not just the one son. Hey, it's two, and they both hurt. I don't know why. I just thought that was that. I lost it at that moment. So I'm glad Marina got a chuckle. So that's I'll put that as one, and then if you guys say different ones, it might make me think of another moment.
You want to
I have
go
a
ahead,
nice.
Marin?
Yeah, yeah. So threw me off guard was the ending. Like, I guess I should have known it was gonna end like that, with him having sex and no longer being a 40-year-old virgin. But like the dance number in the field with everybody, I was like, what is going on here? Like, they better not end it like this. And they did. They really did. I was just like, what is happening? Like, it kind of reminds me of 500 Days of Summer. After he finally has sex with Summer, he goes and like dances in downtown New York, and like everybody comes in.
Spoiler
And
alert.
sorry,
Did that
but
happen in 500 Days of Summer? I don't remember.
yeah, when he finally does it with the girl of his dreams, he wakes up the next day and he's walking to work, and like everybody in the city joins in a dance number, and because he just had sex. So, but it reminded me of that, but just way more is everybody on shrooms kind of thing. Like, it was just very, I wasn't expecting that ending. And
Do you
then,
get the reference though? What the song is?
no,
It's from a musical. It's from Hair, because it's Age of Aquarius, right?
I think so. I think that was the
Yeah,
song.
that's from, and it's very hippy dippy. That's from like the dancing and the clothing and all that and the flat. Yeah, so
That makes
um,
sense. So since I didn't
yeah,
know that, I was just like, what the fudge? Like,
it's
what is
kind of
happening?
like ecstasy and like
Well,
I
yeah,
guess
well,
a
that's
way
what
of
you said. It
showing.
reminded me of people on something. So,
Yeah,
yep, that
so it's
aligns.
from yeah.
And
Sorry,
then
go on. Well,
favorite?
you
No, no, you're fine. That's good
yeah.
information. Now I know what the fudge. Um, favorite scenes. I really liked the dynamic of like coworkers. I thought I was gonna be annoyed. Like, I thought they were gonna bully him, but they actually like kind of take him under their wing in like a toxic way. But I like just I like anything that kind of reference like the fact that they are working. Like, when one of the characters is like watching TV and he's like, is the manager here because I'm not supposed to watch this? And it was just little things like that. It takes you back to like working on a job, like an entry level role, and just like the bonds you have with your coworkers and the things you do behind your manager's back. So like anything like that when they were back at the store was just hilarious to me. Like, oh, such and such called out, you're gonna have to work the floor. Like, it's just you felt a true like work atmosphere. And speaking on like things not aging, even though like it's not as popular to work at a Best Buy anymore. A lot of those electronic stores have closed because a lot of people order things on Amazon. But you still remember like what it feels like to work in something like that.
My aunt was cleaning today, and she, speaking of Best Buy, she brought a gift card. And she's like, "Is Best Buy still around?" She's like, "You want? I don't know how much is on this. It still had like clearly." She was like, "I don't know how long this was given to us, or you want to check?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there's probably what like 20-25 bucks on there, but yeah, let me check it out. Maybe I'll get a Blu-ray 4K version of the 40-year-old virgin and send it to Steve for his birthday because I guess it's his favorite movie."
I never said it's my favorite movie, but I did say it's one of my it's a comedy that I really enjoyed in the past. But let me talk about my favorite moments. There's so many, like name one and pinpoint one, but one that definitely took me off guard that I laughed out loud and I wasn't expecting because it's such a short thing, like a short thing. It was basically when he tries to call the woman that he loves for the first time, and he goes, "Oh, okay, so." He just clears his throat and hangs out. I literally laughed out loud, like so hard. It was incredible. Um, I really enjoyed, like you were saying, the working dynamics. Like that's something I really paid attention this time to like see it instead of seeing as actors that are famous and stuff now. I see it more like they're people working in this. little bubble of a place. And my sister actually worked in Best Buy for like I don't know how many years. So like I can see it more in that dynamic. And it was very interesting just starting off the bat with like Paul Rudd basically telling the manager like if I hear this song again, I'm gonna shoot myself.
You know what,
Good.
Jason? You know what? Jason didn't join us because he probably gets PTSD from that. He worked at Best Buy, so he's probably
Mhm.
just like, "This is gonna give
But
me nightmares."
I mean, we all, or at least we know someone that has had a job that, like, literally there's like a song or something playing over and over again that is so annoying. I remember when I worked in this Mongolian stir fry restaurant as a server, and they will play "Have you ever feel like a plastic bag?" And I was like, if I hear this song from Katy Perry one more time, I'm
I'm
going
gonna let you
to.
finish. I'm gonna let you finish, but I'm a firework, okay? I'll tell you that much.
I don't know. I don't know that. I don't know that song. Can you? Can I hear a little bit more of it?
I don't know the rest of it, but I felt that way. And man, the character of Ronnie Malco was so outstanding, in my opinion, because it showed you like such like such a point of view of the fragile masculinity of like some yeah good bitches and all that, then cheating on his wife, then crying like can't you see that I'm not okay, I'm not secure or whatever, I'm not
Yeah, I'm
whatever.
insecure.
Yeah, I'm insecure. I'm like what? And then like and also like the little talks that like each of the character will have, like Paul Rudd when he talked to Steve Carell about his problems with his ex girl, and Steve Carell is like, you know that this is the first time we talk for more than 20 seconds. It was hilarious. And then when he's like lifting, another dynamic that was really funny when he's like lifting a TV with the character of Seth Rogen, and they drop the TV and whatever. But the whole time they're walking the TV, they're talking about all this very personal and intimate stuff. And like the customer is right there, just like
Yes, I did. I was like, this is so interesting. We're not gonna touch on the fact this poor lady just lost this thing in her car. Now she knows your whole sex life.
Yeah.
basically. And the opening scene is hilarious. Like you don't even have to talk, just show these little vignettes of his life to like essentially get where this is all going. Like it establishes the character very well. Uh, so yeah, there's so many moments. There's so the moments with Ronnie Malcolm and Kevin Hart. That was a great moment to me as well. Very
Man,
outstanding.
what a young Kevin Hart, and just like that. I tell you what, I know we're talking about like all these famous actors, comedians when they were young, but like what is it, Katie Denning or Kat Denning, whatever her name is, like super young, and yeah, Kevin Hart. I'm like, whew. I wonder. I'd like to see him watch this movie or just his scenes and be like, what would he think of watching back like probably one of his first roles or something
and
along
someone
that
who had
line.
and someone who had one of the smaller roles, but like, wow, Jonah Hill. I was like,
Yes,
I didn't know that was him for a second. Like, it's just
yes.
crazy. You never know where life is gonna take you. Like,
And
it just
well,
makes
I believe in between the scenes, they were auditioning for Superbad, and so he
mm,
was around, and that's when they ended up having him audition. I believe it was on this film that because
oh
he was
cool.
around, and so because Seth Rogen wrote that movie as well, so um,
But that little scene of him trying to buy to purchase the shoes, hilarious.
Because it's like, wait, you want to wear these? And two, like, why aren't you just letting this man give you money? Like, what the heck?
it's
I
like
felt it in my heart.
I have these in my hand, and I want to give you money, so I can just take them home and put them on. It's pretty amazing because there have been clearly not interactions um uh with like an eBay store, but I've been in certain situations where it's like, I got my money. Let me give you my money and you can give me the stuff and then we're both happy. And it's like, no, I can't. It has to be this way or it has to be online. It's like, but you have the thing here. So can I not just give you my money? Oh, here's a sidebar. Home Depot, if you're listening, where there was a certain price online, but they weren't accepting my card, but I had the money, and then I was like, well, I was gonna do pickup anyway because they have them at the store. So can I just go and pick it up at the store and pay them? And they're like, no. And I was like, but you have it at the store and you're the same business. And then I went to the store and I grabbed the stuff and I took it to even customer service. I was like, hey, this is the price that I have online. Like, just give me the discount. You guys are the same business. And their response was like, well, we don't compete against ourselves. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're literally the same business. Let me give you the money and you give me the stuff. And they were like, apparently, Home Depot and HomeDepot.com are two separate entities. Anyway, that was my sidebar. So, I I
I'm
definitely
sorry you
felt
went through that.
I didn't realize Jonah Hill's character hit me so hard until just now that it's like I got money, you got stuff I want to pay and I want to take.
You gotta love
Well,
it.
thank you for
Did
that
you ever
sidebar,
get through
Dina.
that?
I'm
He's
sorry.
like nine. He's going through a lawsuit right now. He can't talk more about.
I could. I figured out what
So
it was though, finally after like a year. Anyway, it's not the movie. You go.
let's talk about favorite characters. And because there's so many, there's a plethora of characters in this movie. You can mention your main favorite character, maybe your second favorite character if you do have a
You're speaking to the Gemini in me. We always have two. We always
Damn.
have
All right. Okay, Gemini, who you got?
two. So first off, you guys spoke about him a lot. I love Jay, played by what did you say? Rome? How do you spell his first name? Romany Malco?
second. Ronnie Malco.
Rom.
Ronnie.
Jay. Oh, what? Okay, it's Ronnie. But why is his name spelled like
No, no,
Roma?
Romani.
Jay.
Romani Mount? Yeah.
we're just, we're gonna stick to the character here. I loved him like from start to finish. Like again, I thought that his character was just gonna like constantly bully um Steve Carell's character, but then like it was like such a quick transition to where he's like, "Oh, you're a virgin." I was like, "Okay, here comes the teasing." He's like, "Your penis is my penis. Like I'm getting you some." Like he just got so determined into getting this man, and obviously he had some internalized issues going on to where I feel like he wanted to help someone else, even though he really needed a lot of help. But I love him, and I was a little biased because I just finished a show that he's in, and it was so crazy to see him in this role because the show I was in, he was like married and like living like this super posh life, but also struggling with the mental health issues. So it was just very interesting to see him be like this man slut, ladies' man, trying to get somebody else's virginity lost. But I really, really loved his character. And then secondly, she had such a short role, but I just love her. And I love that she really only acts in things her husband does. It was really cool to see Leslie Mann. It was really brief, but I just that's my girl. I love the way she projects her comedy, and she just like is this like like just this mouse voice. I just love her. So those are my two favorites.
Well, I'm a Sagittarius, so I only have one favorite role, and that's me. No,
Accurate.
is that accurate? I don't know. Um, I think so. What's interesting is a lot of this works because it's a lot of pairs, a lot of pair ups. And I think that's again, improv is a group thing, so that would make sense that the best way is to bounce off each other. Um, so I mean, from the core, You see, I go between to think like Seth Rogen at one point ends up being like the voice of reason. Like even when he hires the young cute girl to like be in the back, and he's like, I did this for you. Like it's like these very messed up characters that are actually somehow super toxic for each other, for themselves and for each other, yet also somehow trying to help each other. uh, so there's that, and then Paul Rudd and Mandy, is that no, Mindy, Mindy. Of course, he bumps into his ex. I thought that was, as a couple, uh, was probably another. I know it's favorite character, and I'm kind of doing favorite scene. You can't go wrong with a speed dating scene. By the way, it's like you really have to try hard to screw up a speed dating scene, because they did very well in the matching up and stuff like that. And then at the at the very end, they're walking out, and they're just kind of like, actually, you might think I'm crazy, but China was the one that was the best of all of them, or something like that. But yeah, I think it would be between Paul Rudd and Seth. I remember in college, everyone would kind of be quoting this, and I feel like, because he was so different. The character Moosh, or Moosh, the I believe he's Indian or Pakistani. I'm not entirely sure. I'm sorry if we get his nationality incorrect, but I know there's something about like older, foreign men just having a dirty ass mouth that I guess really everyone finds really funny. Where I guess, what is it, immigrants that just have a horrible, horrible, right, dirty language always seems to be funny. So I remember that was in college when the movie came out. Everyone would just automatically um go crazy for. But yeah, Leslie Mann, dry heaving, man, that's another thing that if you can do right, the whole dry heaving stuff that not only Carell did, but Leslie Mann did, and she's talking about shellfish. So yeah, I although do not condone drinking and driving. That's why I just drink when I'm technically not by myself, because you guys are with me, so I'm not drinking by myself, guys. Um,
Cheers.
anyway, that's it for a favorite character at the moment.
So trivia: he is a Trinidad-born Canadian of East Indian heritage,
Say that again
and
three
I
times.
you can say it 4 times. But I am going to say my favorite character. I have to say, like, first and foremost, there's so many strong, well fleshed out characters. Because even now, I completely forgot about him. And he, like, every character, even if they had a very short scene, or they had like a larger scene, like I literally understood completely who those characters were, like what they stood for. And you mentioned the speed dating scene. In that scene, each of the women daters had such a very small amount of screen time in comparison to everybody else. And all those characters were fully fleshed out. Like you understood who they were, their mental state, everything. And that's, to me, that's something that not a lot of movies can like give you from the get go. They have to give you a lot of exposition before they get to that point. And I have to say, I have to mention my favorite has to be, without a shadow of a doubt, Steve's character, the protagonist, the 40-year-old virgin, and Ronnie Malco second. Because I really enjoyed when they were together in scenes, they bounced so well off each other. Like so well, unbelievable. The chemistry was off the charts. And without a doubt, I gotta honorably mention Paul Rudd's character, because I feel like, especially those people in particular, but everybody else too, but those people in particular, Like this was kind of a breakthrough role for them, in my opinion. Like this helped them kind of get other roles and other things because they had that chance to kind of be a little bit freer with the script. Uh, so yeah, those would be my favorite characters.
You bringing up the speed dating. This is the period of time for the younger people might not get this, but I love the fact that they talked about like, oh no, get the VCR DVD combo. This period is where the uncut versions of comedies blew up. Cause it was like the DVDs were usually like you could get it unrated, not uncut, unrated DVDs, and all of the Apatow movies. Like if you were gonna buy a DVD, you get the unrated version. And before, when the DVDs first started, and there was like extra features, it was literally like, here's a trailer of the movie, or here's a trailer of the movie with also two other movie trailers. That was it, or a little small cast bio. But around this time is where DVDs like started pumping out, especially comedies. It was gag reels, deleted scenes, all that. So the fact that they were like VCR DVDs and talking about that was just beautiful because it did take me back to that period. But this was on Amazon, and the unrated version you gotta pay or buy, and I'm like, I'm not doing that, Amazon. Get out of here. I'm just gonna watch the regular one. Um, yeah, and going back to the fact that you did say favorite character was Carell, and then Romani or whatever his Jeff or Judd or whatever the character his character's name.
Jay.
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 We got the same letter. When his girlfriend comes in and Jay's like, "Hey, this is
This is how
you."
you talk to people? Yes, you know.
She's
Hey,
all like,
keep your hoe on your leash or whatever.
like I was just like, whoa, you took it like at that point he's like, whoa, took it just a little too over. Oh man, that's great. When a character
That was a
just goes
down friend
off.
right there.
Yeah, yeah, going off. Anyway,
So we talked in particular about the majority of things that I wanted to talk about. The very last thing that I want to talk about before we enter into maybe things you guys want to talk about, or final thoughts, would be how, from your point of view now watching it from 2023, how does the movie hold up today, and how long you think this movie has of time shelf of being actually watchable and viewable?
So I do think that I think we're all considered millennials, right? All three of us.
yeah,
I think since we were aware of some of the technology in this movie, that it may never get too old for us, right? Just some of the references and things, like it's a memory, like it still makes sense. But yeah, there are some Gen Zs that probably have no idea what a VHS is, or that you buy things in store. you know, I think like the over like the fact that someone could be 40 and be a virgin, that's gonna live forever. You know what I mean? Like it takes consent for the most part, and there's somebody always gonna go through that, and I feel like that's relatable forever. Like unless we just start having sex with the robots. You know what I mean? Like I think human to human contact hopefully will last forever. So this can always be pretty funny because by that age you're expected to have done something. That's never gonna die, in my opinion. But yeah, but some of the jokes about Gino kind of mentioned like the speed dating. Yeah, I mean who goes to that anymore? Like you do Tinder, you do whatever the apps are. I've been out the game for a bit, but I know Tinder is one of them. Um,
I don't think there's
is
one of them.
it Tinder? Tender.
It's still yes, it's still around. It's
Oh,
still
okay.
around.
Okay, cool, cool. Um, so yeah, there's parts about it forever, and then there's parts about it that, you'd be like, what's that? But yeah, I still think the parts that matter will probably be pretty timeless.
I think that it's pretty time. Again, I brought up the I know you're gay thing back and forth, which watching stuff from like the 90s and especially early 2000s, like, and even thinking, even in Paraguay, right? Gay became like it became a punchline, and I feel like that might be the only thing, not only thing. I'm sure there's some other stuff, but for the fact that he doesn't just have sex, right? It's not like even if you watch the John Hughes movies, 16 Candles, like all those movies actually have more problematic stuff in them, than these early 2000 movies. Because for the again the whole idea of consent and him actually not wanting and then not wanting to get pressured, but him also not pressuring, and the problematic characters that are like his uh, co-workers, I wouldn't say friends, at least not not at the beginning, that might have devious things, they're the ones that kind of all end up changing at the end, right? Or like they have their come to Jesus moment of just like actually they'll go to try to help him at the very, like, hey man, we got to stop you. You were actually doing like, we don't want to ruin you, basically. They've come to their own realization. So that's why I do think this is kind of timeless. Myself, I just didn't really like just I didn't like enjoy again the fact that it feels like it's more sketches that were put together into one long movie. I think is different, but other than probably some of the way the society is going nowadays with gay and LGBTQ, those kind of situations, I think as well might be changing. But I think the eBay, the buying in person, buying in store, people are still actually gonna be. That's still, I think, relatable for another 5 to 10 years. But yeah, so that's my thing. I think this one, most comedies, I will say, and you guys can hang me later. Most comedies should be timeless. This is propaganda for comedies, but they should be timeless because they come from a certain time point, and unless it's just fully racist, homophobic, that kind of stuff, xenophobic, then it should be timeless because it's a magnifying glass normally of a time in history. That's it.
Yeah, that's true too. Because I didn't even consider that scene inappropriate, but then thinking about it, yeah, it's kind of jerky. Like to just be like, how I know you're gay. I was just like, oh, two bros dissing each other while they play video games, but it's good to be conscious of
I
things
think
like that.
that's the main thing that's changing. I think.
Yeah, I agree with you guys to a certain extent. I do think, yeah, it should be timeless, especially for our generation. I just adding to Dino's point about comedies, as long as the comedies is about relationship dynamics, I think that's what makes it more timeless, in my opinion. But at the same time, I still think like maybe I mean we'll see from here to that decade. But when we're in 2050, this movie is not gonna have wheels, in my opinion. We're gonna be like so advanced in other stuff that is just like I don't know. I don't know even if us watching this movie in that time will be like, oh, we'll be like, oh, we remember that, if anything, but not like, oh, this is amazing or great. We
Well, I
still
already
see it.
don't think this is amazing, but you're the one that loves this. You're the one that this is your favorite movie. Please explain
Listen,
why would it
I
change? Are you hold
I
on?
I do
Okay.
not.
Let me. Man, I really wanted to do a 40-minute review of 40 year old virgin, but
Oh
I
no.
really,
Four,
I'm really
three, two.
cut it off. Just end it.
Bye, guys.
But no, okay, but in full in being serious, 2050 comes around. Are you saying not necessarily us, but the idea that the fact of stores and like a Best Buy or eBay,
Yeah, like
or
it
like,
just life is gonna be very different to the point that because it's the
but
same
you're
thing. Like think about movies like comedy specific from like I don't know maybe the 80s, even the 80s. There's a lot of those that don't hold up at all. That generation, maybe at that time in the 90s or early 2000s, were still like, oh my God, Porky's was great. But we have evolved in so many ways that it's just like it doesn't hold up as much as it did.
well, Porky's was also one of those that had, I think, boobs or nipples or full front. I forget what it was, but that was the thing. Like that's what those like comedies used to be. Like, here's a nipple, kind of like speed dating. Her nipple popped out, right?
But even that, let's say stand up comedy. Stand up comedy has changed from like the 90s, early 2000s to what it is now.
It's got an old woke, bro.
So
But
Well, I
okay,
think
but
I think I get what you're saying, but I do think millennials and boomers will have to completely die out for the technology jokes to go away. But I do think the concept of someone being 40 and being a virgin is going to last a lot longer. They're like, and you said the
I
80s
hope
movies,
not.
like movies from the 80s, yeah, there's certain things where it's like, all right, but there's still certain things that are funny. Like I love um what was that movie? I'm
Home
trying to
Alone.
think of the comedian from Brewster's Millions. You guys remember that movie?
Yeah.
Who
Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor. Like there's movies that he has from the 80s where I still laugh. Yeah, I mean, we don't have certain things from that
Well,
anymore. But
so I guess that, I mean, this is a huge other conversation, but we're also talking satire versus like Blazing Saddles. You know, so many times people are like, "This movie couldn't be made today anymore," and it's like, no, it could be. It might just be a little different. But like Blazing Saddles for me is up there as maybe the best, if not top three, top five best comedies of all time. And people like, and Richard Pryor was wrote for that movie as well.
mm,
But I think this movie. I don't. Are you saying that it won't be funny because technology would have advanced? You're right. In 2050, no one might be watching movies anymore. It might be TikToks. It might be a 2 minute TikTok is the longest movie anyone watches. Right. The
might be
way.
injected with information. Oh,
Yeah.
that was
I
great.
mean, but as movies go, I don't think, because I think someone said the idea of, I think it was you, Marina, about like, oh, being 40 and still a virgin, or more so than anything, this movie might be more relatable in the sense of like the collector stuff, the fact that he had all those toys. I feel like that culture kind of really started to blossom or be accepted in the late 2000s, right? Than it was before. Like it was seen like as such a nerd, such a geek kind of culture, and I feel that side has kind of taken over. I feel like for what this movie is, it's gonna have the same. It's gonna hit the same way in 2050 as it does now, other than again the LGBTQ issues, and unless something else comes, I mean, you have the drunk driving, all that stuff that you might be like, that's actually not funny. But I don't know. I don't see a lot of these movies having much issue going forward, and I'm not
for
even
for
that big of a fan for this movie.
for example, I feel you guys get the gist of what I was bringing up with that, specific about technology advancing, how people are going to consume content differently, all that stuff. But also, when this movie came out, and that's something I do have to put in the review, is that this was something that like exploded Steve Carell into the scene because this movie was so different, this movie was so unique and stuff like that, and it was seen through certain eyes, and it actually catapulted his career. Now, when people think of Steve Carell, they think of The Office, and that's kind of like his flagship, like stamp of like this is what I do. But but yeah, but in general, I just feel it's gonna hit different. It's not gonna hit the same, or it's not gonna hit at all. But for now, it still holds up, in my opinion.
What you said about the office thing, I think that's what kind of is so hard for me to make him my favorite character because I love his role in the office so much. It's just hard to see like this meek man. Like, yeah, he's a little, he's a little strange on the office, but he just has a completely different personality. I think I'm so attached to that one that it was just like so tough to see him play who he was playing. Um,
Also,
on
this
the other hand, I feel like all the other actors kind of, well, besides Jay, which I've seen in a different role, I feel like everyone else kind of has stayed on that same track of how their comedy is. Um, it's just like they pretty much play the same type of character a lot.
so interesting. We were all talking about Steve Carell and the roles are known because for me, Steve Carell first is The Daily Show, and man, Steve Carell and Stephen Colbert used to have a whole thing like Steve v. Steven or something like that where they would go. So for me, that's where I really like knew him from and enjoyed him. And so even The Office, because I had also seen the British Office first, so I felt like the American Office was kind of weak and his character just wasn't likable to me at the very beginning. And maybe similar for this 40-year-old virgin, I was like, character's not like super likable to begin with. Like, I mean, you're rooting for him, but you're rooting for him to get laid because he's a virgin. Because he was, I guess, you know what? I will say that now it's like he was traumatized. So maybe, maybe the being traumatized hits differently, you know. Uh, but yeah, so I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that we all have a different perspective of Steve Carell versus more so than any of the other characters. But yeah,
Well, well, with all that being said, let's go to final thoughts.
all right, I'll go real
Let's
quick. Nothing
yeah, go ahead.
changed. Movies not it's in the lower third of Apatow verse movies that I enjoy. We I know we're talking 2050, and I will defending this. I hope I never see this movie again because I could just see clips of the funnier parts, like the ripping the wax and Kelly Clarkson and all that. So that's it. It's a fine movie for what it is.
Thank you, hater Dino. Let's go with Marina.
It's always great to, because I grew up so sheltered, to knock off a cult classic. So I enjoyed watching it, finally being able to say I've seen it in full. Um, I would recommend it. I don't know who to recommend it to because I feel like I'm the last person on earth to watch it. Like everybody else has already watched it before. But if I meet somebody else who is sheltered and wasn't allowed to watch something so raunchy, I tell them, yeah, you should go check it out. You want a
Will you
little
let
laugh?
your kid? Would you let your kid watch this when they're a teenager?
Yeah, why not? Then like if they, I'm not gonna force feed it, but like, I'm speaking of time lapses. Like movies are so much worse now. Like this is G-rated in my head in comparison. Some of the things that come out now.
Huh, interesting. Yeah.
Thank you for your final thoughts, Marina. Let's go with Steve. Hey, that's me. Final thoughts. Final thoughts. Uh, I still think this movie is hilarious. I had a great time watching it. Again, it's such a time period just because of like a time capsule of just how a lot of these people. I think like the only person in this movie that I really cannot even think what she did after or major things was the the one that played the wife of Steve Carell. But everybody else kind of had like blooming careers after this, and it's such an interesting time piece. One thing I wanted to discuss, but in a way, it's like it's perfect for this film. It's just like the quality of it. Like the quality of the film, it just represents so much of the time period, and that's something I also enjoy. But this movie's hilarious. This movie has a lot to love, uh, and it's kind of if you want to write like a very quick witted comedy, because if you I so sometimes I kind of want to like sit down and like rewatch a movie like that has a lot of funny scenes and just start counting like how many jokes they're like throwing around. But in general, you can tell that they had a blast filming this, and it feels that energy still is in the movie of how well it is. So I enjoyed it. Dino hated it, and Marina will let her kids watch it.
I didn't. So
We
I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it.
Okay, okay. Mr. This is worst. Judd Apatow's worst directorial film or something.
No, I
Ah,
feel that. I feel like this is above funny people.
funny people.
I just wasn't a fan of funny people.
Okay. Uh, so Dino, do you have a question for me?
No, because you answered it at the beginning of the movie. I have nothing for you, but
Okay.
Jason might have one. Hey, Steve, what do you have for us next time?
Next time, well, I don't know why you're asking me because I just went and I can't go again. It is Marina's turn.
Oh yeah. Guess what the movie is? The movie we were supposed to do today, Little Women, 1994 version.
So we're going to watch the 2000 what of Little Woman?
I think it's
The
1994.
oh, okay. We're not watching the new one.
Nope.
Mm, mm-mm. They can
Okay.
keep that.
This came
So
out Christmas Day. Wow.
Little Women with the person that did Beetlejuice, and we already
Free,
reviewed it.
free
I think
Winoga.
we're keeping on theme with a whole bunch of people that are somewhere else now. Like there's a lot of actors in the movie we watched for tonight that we're like, wow, didn't know they were in it, and I feel like this is the same.
Wow.
All right,
Way to tie it all together.
the Time Master over there. So for Eldon Dino, Marina, and me, Steve Just TV, we'll catch you next week. Bye
Bye bye
bye.
bye. Bye bye bye. Bye bye bye.